Do you know this is one of my favorite topics? This book is one of my favorite books. This breaking through glass ceilings is one of my favorite topics. And so I am delighted, absolutely delighted to be here with you today. So thank you, Reverend Denise, for giving me this opportunity. Twice she's giving me this opportunity this month because I'm so passionate about this. I love this book. I love this book. This book changed my life. And we're going to talk about why. What Reverend Denise talked about last week, what I'm talking about this week is in like the first, 10, 15, 25 pages at the most of this book. And it really is life-changing, these concepts. So we're going to do we'll tell the story first and then we'll do a review. Okay. You know what? I'm going to do, sorry. I have so much to say, I just don't know how to say it all. Okay, I'll figure it out. We're in this together. Okay, did you know that a flea can jump 50 to 150 times its body length? Do you know what that means for us? We could jump 32 stories if we were a flea. Isn't that remarkable? It really is. So some scientists had this idea, and their idea was to test this ability in a flea. So they got a gallon. I just bring to mind my grandparents used to get fresh milk. I'm from Wisconsin. Fresh milk from the dairy. Oh, you know, Dan, in a gallon glass jar about this tall with a screw-on lid. Right? So some scientists took these fleas and they put them into a glass jar like that and screwed the lid on. And what this fleas, they kept hopping and they bump into that lid and fall down. Jump, bump, fall down. Jump, bump, fall down. And then they just started jumping a little lower. Okay? So the scientists left that lid on for 3 days. 3 days, that's it. And then they took the lid off. But guess what the fleas did? They didn't jump out of the jar. They kept jumping at that same height. Scarier than that, they took them out of the jar. They kept jumping at that same height. Scarier than that yet, the next generation of fleas, the next generation jumped at that height. That, my friends, is what a glass ceiling looks like. That is exactly what a glass ceiling looks like. And we've got them. We've got them. And that's why we're taught. We're taught. So let's do a short review here. Reverend Denise went over these last week. I'm just going to give you short examples so you understand why understanding where our glass ceiling is so important. Okay? So the zone of incompetence. She talked about these zones, yes? Okay. The zone of incompetence is things that we do that we really suck at. For me, the zone of incompetence would be when I try to pick up tools and do things. I don't know why it is, but if I pick up a hammer, I am destined to hit a finger or a thumb. I'm lucky I have Leland, let me tell you what.
More navigation, really.
No, navigation is definitely my zone of incompetence. I'm lucky I know where my house is. So, zone of incompetence, right? Zone of competence, and Leland hates it when I say this, but this is true. My zone of competence would be accounting. Why does Leland hate this? Because that's what I do for our company. But it's my zone of competence. I'm relatively good at it. The bottom lines always match. It's kind of why I like doing it. It's the only part of my life where I can actually check a bottom line and see if it's right. Nowhere else in life can I do that, but I can in accounting. So it's kind of exciting. But that's a zone of competence for me. I can do it. I don't enjoy it. But I can do it. Zone of excellence for me would probably be graphic design. I'm a trained graphic designer. I went to college for graphic design. I was a professional graphic designer for I still do graphic design, 30-something years. I taught graphic design at the college level. That's a zone of excellence for me. Am I the most gifted graphic designer I know? Oh, heck no. But I'm pretty good at it, and I'm really good at teaching it. Which leads me kind of to my zone of genius. My zone of genius is teaching. And it's lots of different kinds of teaching. I can take complex subjects and I can break them down into bite-sized, understandable pieces. I'm really good at it. And I love doing it. I love dissecting information and figuring out how to explain. I think it's because I sucked at school. I think that's part of it. That I really want to take information and make it discernible for people and help everybody understand things. It's really important to me. It's kind of a core value, bring everybody along. So it's my zone of genius. I get lost when I'm doing this kind of thing. And time doesn't exist when I'm doing this kind of thing. When I'm standing up here, time doesn't exist, but I promise to keep it close to 20 minutes. But it doesn't, you know, and it's so much fun. Writing the talks is so much fun. Doing the research is so much fun. This is my zone of genius. You see the difference between them? And it's important that you understand which zones are yours. Because so many people, I can't tell you how many of my friends spent their careers in their zone of competence. Not even in their zone of excellence where they could have some fun. And many of them in their zone of incompetence. You know, there's a lot of miserable people out there right now. And this is why. They're not using their gifts. They're not. It's a promise I made to myself early in life for some reason that I would never have a job that I hated. I just made that promise to myself, and I'm so glad. Money didn't matter, joy did. And so I've always been in my zone of excellence, and just recently in my zone of genius. So, important to understand. And things can get in the way of this. What Gay Hendricks goes over in these first several pages of the book is what he calls the one big problem, or the glass ceiling, or the upper limit issue. He calls it a bunch of different things, but it all means the same thing. And Reverend Denise started talking about it just a tiny bit last week. You remember her talking about that we have an internal thermostat? We have an internal thermostat, and it is set for the amount of good that we will allow into our life, or the amount of success that we will allow into our life, or the amount of love that we will allow into our life. It's a set point. And when we hit it, we self-sabotage to not go any further. And the thing is, just like those fleas, we don't even know it's there. We don't even know it's there. We just know that when we get to a certain point, and I can tell you what this looks like. And many of you that have a spouse might recognize this example. It's happened with Leland and I, and fortunately now we can call a spade a spade. Mostly. We're still having a very human experience. But we will go out and we'll have this great weekend together. We've never been closer, you know, we just have this grand time, and we're driving home, and it's wonderful, and then he says something stupid, and I respond. Or, yes, that's how that works from my perspective. Or I say something stupid, and he responds, right? We've all been there. We've all been there in one way or another. This is how an upper limit problem shows up. This is exactly how an upper limit problem shows up, because otherwise what we have to do is allow ourselves to bring that relationship to the next level. So we don't. We go boom. Fortunately, Leland and I will look at each other often now and go, is this an upper limit problem? Yeah, I think it might be. You want to start this conversation again? Yeah, I really do. Okay. You know, it's a great thing. So awareness is everything. And that's where Gay Hendricks says that this is a solvable problem, because when you know what the problem is and you can see it happening in your life, you can step up to that problem and go, there's my ceiling. Shit. Sorry. I have such a potty mouth. I try, but it's not, I'm not always successful. But anyway, you get the real deal here, right? Okay, so you bump into that doggone thing and you go, oh, there it is. And sometimes you can just look at it, and sometimes you can breathe through it. But awareness is key. Awareness is key. So how did that thermostat get in place? It got in place to take care of feelings of others. This was training we received when we were little. When we were little, and we've brought it through our entire life with us. It's been there in the background, or maybe in the foreground, the entire stinking time. So as soon as we can get awareness around this, we can start to change things. So, Gay Hendricks talks about 4 false beliefs or hidden barriers. We're going to get into one of them today. I'll tell you what the 4 are, but we're going to get into one of them, the most common one today. And if you want to learn about the other 3, please come on Saturday, because we will be studying them at length and deeper, and you can figure out what your hidden barriers are. But I have 20 minutes, I'm going to stick to it, so I'm going to cover 1 fully. And once you understand how that is and how that came into being, maybe come and figure out what yours are. So, the 4 false beliefs or hidden barriers that Gay Hendricks talks about are: 1, feeling fundamentally flawed. That is the most common one. That is the one we're going to explore today. Feeling fundamentally flawed. 2, disloyalty or abandonment. Meaning, if I continue to do X, Y, or Z, I'm being disloyal to somebody. It means that I'm not honoring my commitment to somebody. Or, like this happens sometimes with people that start out in poor means and become wealthy. They'll hit that glass ceiling when they become wealthy because they feel like they're leaving their friends behind. And because their life has changed, and what they do changes, and who they hang with changes. And it's not that they try to leave these friends behind. And if they hit that glass ceiling and feel like they're abandoning, they will self-sabotage and lose all that money. Make sense? Okay. 3, believing that more success brings bigger burden. So I can't be wealthy because you know what I'd have to pay in taxes? If I had all this money, there'd be so much more going out, I couldn't deal with that. There's a bigger burden, whatever the success looks like, financial, love, or whatever, maybe it's love. If I have a great relationship where we really trust each other and we're vulnerable, no, I just can't get that vulnerable in front of somebody. I won't do it. It's a bigger burden. Okay? Bigger burden. The crime of outshining is the 4th. This happened in my family. One of my brothers, unfortunately it's the one who passed, but one of my brothers is brilliant. And Mensa, brilliant. He got straight A's. And the rest of us were pretty average, and we're all creative, so we're not linear thinkers. So, you know, CD student, because I'm not a linear thinker. I can't answer tests. I just can't, Ask me to explain something, I can do that. Kent, straight A's. Never was acknowledged. Never, and he'd go to mom and dad, and they'd be talking. They always said to us, we look at the comments, not the grades. As long as the comments were good, we were all right. We wouldn't get in trouble. But he'd have great comments and great grades, never got accolades either. And in fact, they'd ask him to put his report card away because we didn't do as well. The crime of outshining. And this is well-meaning parents. They didn't want to hurt him. They didn't want him to hurt us. So you can see what that starts to do up here. Yeah? So this is how these stories start, and this is how the stories tend to hold us back. So let's talk about this feeling fundamentally flawed. This is the one that we're going to look at in depth today because it really is the most common one. But feeling fundamentally flawed is, I cannot expand to my full creative genius because something is fundamentally wrong with me. Something, and it usually has nothing to do with the area of genius or anything else, but there is something fundamentally wrong with me. And it shows up as I should not be this happy or this creative or this rich or this in this loving relationship because. Okay? So, he has an example in the book. It's a story about a guy named Carl. And Carl he came into this world, and when he was about 1.5, 2 years old, his parents split. Now, his dad was very successful in Fortune 500 company and very wealthy, all that kind of stuff. And he and mom had a horrible breakup. Very, very, very tumultuous, lasted for years, lots of arguments around the money and stuff. And Carl was 1.5, 2 when this started, and still quite young when they finally got divorced. His father went on and remarried and had another family. And Carl lived with his mom and would see his dad on weekends and such. Now, as the new family was being created, Carl noticed a distinct difference between the way that his father treated him and his half-siblings. Huge difference in the way that they were being treated. And one day, Carl's father had a little bit too much to drink and confessed to Carl, "Whenever I look at you, I see your mother, and I just hate her." Isn't that horrible? And it happens. It was not a malicious thing on Carl's, and it wasn't Carl's fault. Carl didn't do anything bad to deserve that. This is not cause and effect at play here. We talk about that a lot. That's not what's going on here. It's circumstance. And Carl was caught into the story of his parents that became his story of, I'm flawed. Now, that could have been any child. It wasn't Carl. Any child in that position, unfortunately, would have been treated that way by that father. But that became a subconscious pattern in Carl. I'm broken. I'm not worthy of love because of that. And it informed his life. We have those stories too. We have those stories too. And so the key here, or the invitation here, is to recognize that, and let's figure out what that story is, because it's simply not true about you. It's not true about you. Now, the fear of being fundamentally flawed brings with it a related fear that's just as bad, if not worse. And that is, if you make a commitment to live in your zone of genius, you might fail. And it's the belief that even your genius is flawed. So you go to these workshops and you figure out what your zone of genius is, and then you look at that zone of genius and go, I don't know. That's probably not true about me. It's a biggie. And it's the one that most of us possess. That in some way we are fundamentally flawed. But here's the good news. You're not. You're not. You're not fundamentally flawed. Regardless of what programming might have been put in there when you were a kid, you are made in the image and likeness of a Most High God, and you were put here to do some seriously important work that only you can do. So we got to get beyond these barriers so that we can live in our zone of genius. Yes? That was not a good response, you guys. Come on, I'm up here being all kinds of dramatic, and yes? Yes! Thank you, so much better. Cheapers. But we got to make a commitment to living in this zone of genius, and we got to make a commitment to recognizing when we hit these glass ceilings. It's important so we can live a full life and we can be happy. Because guess who gets to make that choice? We do. We do. It's nothing outside of us. It's not circumstance. It's not money. It's none of that stuff. It's what we decide. It's what we decide. So let's decide to be aware and move beyond that. Yeah? Yeah. Okay. So we just talked about this. The beliefs based on those fears are false. Any of the barriers, they're false and cause you to have a misunderstanding about who you actually are, which we just talked about. You're in the image. I'm getting ahead of my slides, as usual. That's okay. But Reverend Denise gave us a wonderful affirmation, which we are going to do together because it's going to bring us again where we need to be in all of this discussion of barriers and zones and all that stuff. Almost. All right. I will, in keeping with the way that Reverend Denise does it, I will read it first, then we will read it together, okay? Okay. I say yes to feeling good, and I expect this enthusiasm, guys. Okay. I say yes to feeling good. I say yes to my whole life going well. I am willing, ready, and committed to get out of my own way and live in my zone of genius. I expand in abundance, success, and love every day, and I inspire those around me to do the same. Okay, you ready? Here we go. I say yes to feeling good. I say yes to my whole life going well. I am willing, ready, and committed to getting out of my own way and living my zone of genius. I expand in abundance, success, and love every day as I inspire those around me to do the same. And so it is for sure. Now, the question on everybody's mind. Oh, you guys remembered your cue. You didn't. This is tradition at the end of my talk. I always do this. We got to get you on board, man. Come on. All right. I love ending with Ernest Holmes. I always got to tie it back into Science of Mind.
Is that it? Just his name?
Oh, heck. See? Heck no. From this thing called You by Ernest Holmes. You belong to the universe in which you live. Boy, does this tie well with Patrick's meditation. This is so cool. See, no coincidence. He did not know this was a reading. And if you were here for the meditation, notice how it ties together. And this is why there's one thing going on and we don't have to be so controlling. Okay, anyway. You belong to the universe in which you live. You are one with the creative genius back of this vast array of ceaseless motion, this original flow of life. You are as much a part of it as the sun, the earth, and the air. There's something in you telling you this, like a voice echoing from some mountaintop of an inward vision, like a light whose origin no man has seen, like an impulse welling up from an invisible source. Your soul belongs to the universe. Your mind is an outlet through which the creative intelligence of the universe seeks fulfillment. This is your starting point for investigating the meaning of those impulses, longings, and desires which accompany you through life. Today's the day. This is your starting point. You are here for good reason. So let's get those stinking barriers out of here and live fully. Yes? Yes. All right. How about we take this into prayer? So, settling into the right here, right now, and knowing together there is one power, one presence, one life. There's simply one thing going on. It is this creative energy, and it is seeking fuller, freer expression, and it uses us to do just that. And this is what I know. I know that something within each and every one of us has shifted today. Something's been moved, something's been cracked, something's been broken through, something's been realized, something's been recognized. There is movement going on here, and it's sacred movement. It's a movement of love energy, peace energy, creative energy in and as each and every one of us. I know that there is a new freedom experienced by each and every one of us because we are stepping into who and whose we truly are. There is movement here. There is life here. There is good here. There is God here. So I give thanks. I give thanks for all of this recognition that is going on. I know that it is ripple upon ripple upon ripple after today, that just aha after aha happens, that question after question, and answer after answer is happening as a result of us coming together today. So I am just so grateful for all the geniuses that are emerging. It is good, it is God, and it is done. So in great gratitude, I just turn it over and let it be, knowing each and every one of us is in good hands. All is well. So let's claim and anchor this together by saying,